Good morning. It's Saturday morning. Kind of a weird light coming in on me. Coming to you a little bit late in the morning. I had to lie back down. Not 100% today. But hey, that's okay. The Word of God is 100%. And it's all here. I got it all right here. I can't talk about all of it today. That's why we do this every day, you know. God bless all of you. Thank you for joining me. Go to church tomorrow. You need to be there. God can't use you there if you're not there. We began Jeremiah 51 yesterday, and I would just like to read from the beginning up as far as we got, and then I will pick it right up. Most of this prophecy is for the future, for a final destruction of Babylon, Babylon's religion, the Babylon world system, the Babylon economy. Everything about it will be destroyed in the future. Although some of these things happened in part when Babylon fell. You see, as I've told you repeatedly, Babylon has never been destroyed. The Medes and the Persians took it without a fight, and the Greeks defeated the Persian forces in the field, and Alexander marched into his forces into Babylon as a conquering hero. So that destruction of Babylon has never happened, but it will. And so bear in mind while we're talking about these things, although there is Babylon specifically, there is the spirit of Babylon. There's the Babylon system. Babylon is the system in the world. Babylon is what the devil uses to corrupt all of us. It's the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. That's Babylon, spiritual Babylon. It is everything that exalteth itself against God. It is everything that tries to prevent us from bringing into captivity every thought to Christ. It is the stronghold which we must count down. I'm paraphrasing from chapter 10 of 2 Corinthians. Chapter 51, the book of the prophet Jeremiah. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them, and rise up against me a destroying wind. And will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth the archer, let the archer bend to his bow. And against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God. Of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity. For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render her recompense. Talking about the day of the Lord, the time of Jacob's trouble, the great tribulation, and specifically here the end of the great tribulation, where Babylon shall be thrown down and completely destroyed. Not only the city, but the idea and the spirit of Babylon will be destroyed. With the coming of the King, the Lord Jesus. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even unto the skies. The Lord hath brought forth our righteousness. Come, and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our God. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord and the vengeance of his temple. Jeremiah was writing this in 600. The Medes and the Persians took the city of Babylon in 539 BC. So he's writing this 61 years before the fact. But the day of vengeance had not happened, and the vengeance of his temple had not happened. Am I not playing, Gala? I don't know. Set up a standard upon the walls of Babylon. Make the watch strong. Set up the watchman. Prepare the ambushes. For the Lord hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and thy measure of thy covetousness. The Lord of hosts has sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. Well, that has never happened. He hath made the earth by his power. He hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens. He causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish by his own knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood. There is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. You see, that might happen now, but that didn't happen then. Israel was taken captive by the Assyrians. Judah was taken captive by the Chaldeans, by Babylon. With thee I will destroy kingdoms. That hasn't happened yet. Could happen any day, though, with the army in Israel now. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and rider. With thee will I break in pieces the chariot and the rider. With thee also I will break in pieces man and woman. You see, this didn't happen. Remember, the Medes and the Persians took Babylon without a fight. They snuck in, they killed King Belshazzar and all his court, cut their throats. And when Babylon fell, to the Greco-Macedonian Empire, Alexander the Great. Alexander defeated the Persian forces in the field and then entered into Babylon as a conquering hero. None of this stuff has happened yet. With thee, I will break in pieces man and woman. With thee, he plans to do this with Judah and Israel. Well, they were captives. They were slaves. They didn't have any army at this point, or a king, or a country. They were all captives. Their country was occupied by the Chaldeans. So this is not in the past. This is in the future. With thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. And I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee I will break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen. And with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done against Zion in my sight, saith the Lord. Gayla, can you see me or hear me? It says that it just won't play live. I don't understand. My red light's on. I have every indication I'm going out live. I'll check it when I'm done. I don't understand what's going on. But I'm glad to know you're alive and well. And tomorrow's Sunday, we get to go worship and play for the Lord. Speak his word in the name of Jesus and preach the small and great. Verse 25, behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain. Talking about Babylon. And he certainly is. He used Nebuchadnezzar to punish Judah, to burn down the temple, to give the land 70 years of rest, because they had neglected their 7-year Sabbaths. He did it to punish his own people because they had forsaken him, because they had gone a-whoring after other gods, because they were sacrificing their children, because they believed lies of false prophets. Well, we're doing all those things right now, so it's like Johnny barred the door. Katie barred the door is what it is. Johnny, get your gun, I guess. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroyeth all the earth, and I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. It's never happened yet, but it will. And you say, well, Babylon is just like a tourist attraction now. There's nothing there but some sheep herders and some scientists and a few people living in tents, and the people who come from all over the world to see where Saddam Hussein tried to rebuild the city. Now, let me tell you, beloved, Saddam Hussein was small potatoes compared to all the other leaders of the world, even in his day. And he really is small potatoes compared to the coming beast, the Antichrist, the man of perdition, the wicked one, the one who will be empowered by Satan himself to rule hell on earth for 7 years after the rapture, before Jesus comes and destroys this world system at the Battle of Armageddon. These things that Jeremiah is writing here have not happened yet. They've never happened in the history of the world. Verse 26, and they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for a foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith the Lord. See, that hasn't happened. This is talking about a destruction that is so complete that they won't even be able to use any of the stones that are there to rebuild. Saddam Hussein, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 25, 20 years ago, what time is it? It's 2024. Back in the 90s, he started rebuilding Babylon, and he was building upon the very foundation of the city wall. You know, the Great Wall that was so wide that you could have chariot races on top of it. The foundations weren't thrown down. There was a foundation left for him to use, and he began building there. This hasn't happened yet. Set ye up a standard in the land and blow a trumpet among the nations. Prepare the nations against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. And that would be like Turkey and Iran and what used to be the Scythians. Cheyenne, good morning. Who became the Russians there in the Caucasus Mountains, the southern peoples of the Russians. This is the great army that's going to come out of the north against Babylon. That never happened in history. It's going to involve parts of Europe, Eastern Europe especially, Central Asia. Eventually it will involve the kings of the East, which I assume are both India and China. That's more than a third of the world population right there. Appoint a captain against her and cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. That hasn't happened. Prepare against her the nations of the kings of the Medes and the captains thereof and all the rulers thereof and all the land of his dominion. Now that part had a partial fulfillment. The Medes and the Persians were allied. The Medes pressed from the south. The Persians pressed from the east and northeast of the city of Babylon. And they had some skirmishes. But the battle was so negligible to Babylon that they were having a Roman orgy type of thing at the palace the night that Belshazzar saw the writing on the wall and said he was weighed in the balances and that his kingdom was given away to the Medes and to the Persians. And that very night, the army snuck in and killed him, and Darius the first, 62 years old, sat on the throne in Babylon. They took it without a fight. This is a matter of history. It happened in 539 BC. You can even go to Wikipedia and they'll have it right. It is so commonly known. So this has not happened yet. So all the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon, to make Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. That has not happened yet. It will happen. The whole world hasn't trembled with sorrow. I guarantee you nobody trembled with sorrow except maybe a few people who were living in Belshazzar's palace, who lost a husband or a wife or a mother or a daddy that day when the enemy slipped in and killed half of them in their sleep and dragged the others out on the steps of the palace and cut their throats in public. Probably held Belshazzar by the head and showed everybody his gaping throat. Looked like he had a second mouth. It all happened just like that. And it has not been made desolate. And even if you try to argue that it's very sparsely populated now, even with a city of 500,000 a couple of clicks away down the street, Hillah, this did not happen when the Medes took over. You know where the Medes were? The Medes were descendants of Elam, one of the sons of Shem. And That area today where the Medes grew strong, that is southeastern Iraq, southeastern Iran, where where Israel bombed not too long ago. It is where their primary nuclear weapons plants are. It's where their missile system is. It's where their biggest reactor is. Those are the Medes today. They could sure come up against whatever's in Babylon. And they could make it a desolation. And help make it a desolation with the hand of the Lord. But this has never happened in history. The mighty men, verse 30, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holes. Their mind hath failed. They became as women. They have burned their dwelling places. Her bars are broken. Well, yeah, there were probably some people who hid in their rooms when the Medes who snuck in were killing all the leaders. But this hasn't happened en masse. It hasn't happened, and it's described here. There was not an arrow fired. They did not burn down the gates. It didn't happen. 31, one post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end. That didn't happen. The only message that Belshazzar got was from the Lord. Thou hast been weighed in the balances and been found wanting. That's the only message that the king of Babylon got that night. Charlie, God bless you. Well, Gayla, there's other people watching, so it must be working. I'll check this and watch it myself when it's over. For those of y'all who can't see the comments, Gayla said hers wouldn't play. But if other people are coming on, then some people must be looking. Love you guys. I'm terrible with names, but I remember now. I married Cheyenne Wilson. I mean, I didn't marry her to me. I married her and her husband together out on a ranch. It was like a big wedding menu, but it was also looked like a working ranch. Anyway, all these things that it says that happened about the king being warned, he wasn't warned. He was killed in his sleep or drugged from his bed and killed on the steps of the palace. Remember, the Medes and the Persians took Babylon by stealth. There was no fight. When Alexander, 200 years later, when Alexander entered Babylon, he entered as a conquering king because he had defeated the forces of Darius II in the field. There was no fight for Babylon. This has not happened yet. Verse 32, and that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. Well, I'm sure if they knew what was going on, they were scared. But history tells us that not many know. God bless you, Cheyenne. I'm glad it took. There's no refunds. No refunds, no returns on husbands. You got to keep him. You see, this didn't happen. It hasn't happened yet because they were taken by stealth. Verse 33, for thus saith the Lord. Now here's where we know that this is a future event. For sure. There are plenty of clues laid along the way, just like Hansel dropped the breadcrumbs behind her, as they walked through the woods, and trying to leave a trail. What I wondered was if they were starving and they couldn't feed the kids, how come they had a stick? That's why the wicked stepmother wanted to get rid of them or whatever. Can't remember the exact story, but her husband was supposed to leave them out in the woods because they couldn't afford to feed them. Hansel and Gretel. But Hansel left breadcrumbs. If they were starving, where did he get the bread? Have you ever thought about that? Some of these nursery rhymes and fairy tales, they don't make any sense at all. And then they come upon this witch in the woods who lives in a candy house, and she's a cannibal. It's like, and they're eating on her house, and she comes out and she throws them in the oven. What's this supposed to tell us? If I have a Hershey bar or a bag of Oreos, does that make me guilty enough to be executed? I hope not. Because I like a Hershey bar, especially with almonds. But this has never happened. Chapter 51, verse 33. This shows us that it's in the future, irrevocably. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. They've never threshed Babylon. No one has. It is time to thresh her. That is where they thresh out the wheat, separate the wheat from the chaff, begin to grind it out. So that they can make flour out of it. Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. What does this remind us of immediately? It reminds us, it reminds us of Hebrews. Paul writes about Jesus. He said, yet a little while, and he that shall come will come. Talking about Jesus. It's the same language. It's the same type of structure. And I believe that the time of her harvest will be right before the second coming of Jesus Christ at the head of the armies of heaven, for the time of her harvest shall come. Now it speaks directly about Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 34, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. Now he's talking about the inhabitants of Zion. Now Nebuchadnezzar did destroy the temple, burned the temple, destroyed Jerusalem, took Judah captive. It was his predecessoring empire, the Assyrian empires, that conquered Israel. Zion is used in two ways. Zion is used of the actual mountain where Jerusalem sits. It's also used for the whole people of Israel. The northern kingdom of Israel, whose capital was Samaria, and the southern capital of Israel, whose capital was Jerusalem, all the way back to the United Kingdom. And today, you listen to the news and you got these Arab communist terrorists on TV, and they talk about the Zionist occupiers. Well, it means Jewish. It means any Jew from any tribe, from any time. Specifically, it means the mountains where Jerusalem sits. Spiritually, symbolically, it means all Jews everywhere, at any time. I know I look like I'm drunk. I can see myself in the screen here, but I am not drunk. It's just my head is a little weird. I'm a little wonky, and I'm kind of dizzy. So I may be kind of swaying a little bit, but I'm sitting down. I'm not going to fall and hit my head on anything. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good. I just wanted you to know that there's just coffee in this cup, okay? I'm not one of those imbibing Baptists. Now, if you are an imbibing Baptist and you think it's okay to drink alcohol, I'm not going to break fellowship with you, but I'm not going to give you a pat on the head either. How about that? Because Jesus loves you, I have to love you too. That's a command, that ye love one another. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. He did. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. He hath filled my belly with delicates. He hath cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitant of Zion say. He's being specific here. Zion was the hill Jerusalem was on. The temple was burnt on that hill. The city was destroyed on that hill. And this could mean that it's only the people who live on Mount Zion is saying that? I don't think so, because they were taken captive. Zion, Jerusalem, was uninhabitable after it was destroyed, because Gedaliah, remember, had set up the provisional capital at Mizpah before the rebels took Jeremiah and all the people in Baruch too down into Egypt. So even after the destruction of Jerusalem, there was nobody living there, because Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had taken them all captive, the ones he didn't kill, and taken them away to Babylon. Jerusalem was uninhabitable. This specifically, Mount Zion, was uninhabitable. So who is the inhabitant of Zion? That's all the Jews. All the Jews everywhere. They cry out for violence and revenge against Babylon. And they don't know it, but they're crying out for revenge against the Babylonian system, against the mother-child cult, against all religion, because all religion began at Babel, on the plain of Shinar, Nimrod, the Tower of Babel. Everything proceeds from there. There is nothing evil that did not start at Babel, religiously speaking. False worship, false prophets, lying prophets, false prophecies, false worship, the worship of false gods, Baal. Baal was Baal in Babylon. Jezebel, that was her name in Hebrew. But in her native language, which was closer to the Chaldean language, from Tyre and Sidon, her name was Jethbaal, daughter of Baal. In Hebrew, daughter of Baal. Babylon runs through the false worship, the false gods, the idolatry, the fornication, pharmakeia, the drugs, the sex, and the booze from the beginning of time. It's all Babel. The confusion. It's what Satan does to make us confused. It's what Babel means. So the inhabitant of Zion is saying these curses upon Babylon. He said them then, he's saying them now, whether he realizes or not. God will carry them out in the future. My blood be upon the inhabitants of Chaldea, shall Jerusalem say. When Jeremiah wrote this, he was in Jerusalem. It hadn't been destroyed yet. But Judah never had the opportunity to take vengeance on Babylon, because they were slaves in Babylon. Therefore, thus saith the Lord in verse 36, Behold, I will plead thy cause, and take vengeance for thee. The Bible always explains himself. He's telling Jerusalem and all of Zion, you can't do anything for yourself because you're destroyed and you're captive, so I'll take vengeance for you. And I will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. That never happened. They were in a well-watered plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. But it will happen in the future. Because right now, the Euphrates is drying up. Did you know that? It is. It's a fulfillment of this prophecy. And there will come a time when God will take complete vengeance on Babylon. And Babylon shall become heaps, not just the place, but on the idea of Babylon, Satan's kingdom. Babylon is Satan's kingdom. Babel is Satan's kingdom. Baal is the worship of Satan. Any false god is the worship of Satan. The worship of Allah is the worship of Satan. The worship of any of the 30,000 Hindu gods is the worship of Satan. The worship of Buddha or of of the Virgin Mary and the baby, any of that heathen pagan worship, that is all Babylon. And he's going to destroy it. It's going to fall. Good morning, Martha. God bless you. And Babylon shall become heaps, not heaps, never been heaps, a dwelling place for dragons. Boy, I'd like to see that. An astonishment and a hissing without an inhabitant. That hasn't happened yet. And they shall roar together like lions. They shall yell as lions' whelps. That's the cubs. In their heart, in their heat, I will make their feast, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake, saith the Lord. He said they're going to party on. They're going to just party on. Everything's going to be just fine. The party's going to continue, just like here in the United States. The party is going to continue on. The liquor advertisers on TV, they got these, beautiful people drinking beer and whiskey, and everybody's happy. And then they have that little tag at the end, and it goes, drink responsibly. Yeah, the party's going to go on. Men are going to keep thinking they're women. There's going to be women who keep thinking they're men. We're going to keep cutting off the genitalia of minors, of children, mutilation. We're going to be mutilating kids. We're just going to keep doing it. We're going to keep killing babies. We're going to keep worshiping these false gods in the United States and all over the world. We're going to carry right along. It's a perpetual sleep. We're not going to wake up from it, and then he's going to destroy. He's going to take his vengeance on this devil-worshiping world. It will come. Verse 40, I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like the rams with the he-goats. I'm going to quit there today, mainly because of the time, because we're going to get into Shishak tomorrow, and I need to do a little bit of explanation there. The punishment of Bel, the fall of Shishak, the fall of Babylon. And you will, by the time we get to the end of this, you will understand that not only has this destruction of Babylon never happened in the past, the Babylon that the scripture describes being destroyed, the Babylon that Jeremiah writes about being destroyed, it has never existed. You see, God, prophecy is just a future that God writes in advance. And that's what we're seeing here. It says, I'll bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. That partially happened when the Medes and the Persians took Babylon. They took them in their sleep. They cut their throats. But they did not destroy the city. They did not destroy the culture. It was business as usual the next day. People opened up their shops. People bought bread. People traded money. The merchants sold goods and bought goods. This destruction has never happened. God bless all of you. I love all of you. Don't worry about me at all. I know I look a little funny today. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And pray for those people you know that aren't saved. Pray for them, because Jesus is coming soon. And if there's any possible way for you to invite somebody to come to church with you tomorrow, you do that. Bring them with you. Don't go to heaven by yourself. God bless you.